Hello everyone, welcome back to the video lectures again. So today we are going to start with module number 1. So we are going to start with design of concrete structures 2 subject, module number 1. So in that, module number 1 generally says about the limit state of collapse. So what is this limit state of collapse? How this limit state of collapse is related to design of any structure we are going to see today. Actually, we are going to start with the basic, that is method of RCC designing. So before actually going to the method of RCC designing, let us see what are the criteria to be satisfied while designing a RC structure. So while designing any RC structure, reinforced concrete structure, there are two general criteria which are to be satisfied. First one is adequate safety in terms of stiffness and durability. So I can generally say that safety and economy. So safety and economy are the two factors which are to be met while designing any RC structure. So why the safety and economy is important, I will tell you. So these are the two very important factors, because you can see if any structure is not safe, we won't be able to use it. And if any structure is safe but it is having very high cost, then again we won't be able to afford it. So in both the cases, if safety is not there, we won't be able to use. If economy is very high or if cost is very high, we won't be able to afford it. Some people might afford, but not everyone. So our general criteria while designing is safety and economy. So based on these two criteria, there are three methods of designing the RCC structure. First one is working stress method, second one is ultimate load method, third one is the limit state method. So working stress method, ultimate load method, these are the previous, means older methods of designing. Now this limit state method is trending, I can say. So now we use this limit state method while designing any RC structure. Sometimes we use working stress method. In most of the cases we use limit state method. Now you can see, let us see one by one what is working stress method, what is ultimate load method, what is limit state method. So first let us start with working stress method. So this method is based on linear elastic theory or classical elastic theory. This method ensures the adequate safety by suitably restricting the stress in materials. That is, what are the materials which are used in RCC? Concrete and steel are two base materials which we use. So, uh, what this theory does is, the stress in concrete and stress in steel will be limited. So I can say that in concrete and steel, the stress will be limited to certain amount. That is, let us think that maximum amount of stress which can be beared by concrete and steel is some limit, which is having certain limit. So we are going to restrict the stress induced in these materials below that limit only, so that it will ensure the adequate safety. So by inducing working loads on a structure, so it should be load, sorry, it has been, while typing it has become leads. So adequate expected working loads on a structure, the assumption of linear elastic behavior considered justifiable since specific permissible stresses are kept well below the ultimate strength of a material. That's what I have said. Let us think that ultimate means maximum strength of a material, that is concrete and steel, is certain, there is certain limit for that. Let us think that X is a maximum strength of concrete and steel. So the load applied on those material will be kept well below that X, that is nothing but maximum strength of a material. So I can say that load means load. When we apply a load, stresses are going to develop. So I am talking in terms of load. In this particular notes, I have told about the stress. So both ways you can talk. Either you can consider the load or else you can consider the stress. So In working stress method uses the safety factor of 3 with respect to cube strength of concrete. So for the concrete, working stress method uses safety factor of 3, and for factor of safety about 1.8 with respect to yield strength of steel. So for the steel it is going to use a safety factor of 1.8. So this is the first method, that is working stress method. Now second method is ultimate load method. So the ultimate load method is based on ultimate strength of reinforced concrete, and ultimate load is obtained by enhancing service loads. So you can see ultimate strength here, there is a term called ultimate strength. So maximum strength of the load is utilized over here. Maximum strength of a material is utilized over here. So uh, based on this maximum strength, they are going to obtain the service load by some factor called load factor. So here safety factor they are going to use, here they are going to use load factor. For example, let us say uh, ultimate strength of a material is 100. So service load on that material is obtained by applying certain load factor, that is let us think that load factor is 0.5. So service load is 50 in that case. So 100 is the ultimate strength, so service load is 50 when I apply the load factor of 0.5. okay, so giving a desirable margin of safety. So that is nothing but this load factor is nothing but safety factor. Hence this method is referred to load factor method or ultimate strength method. Remember, this is also called as ultimate strength method. So you can see with this working stress method as well as ultimate load method, there is some problem. So to understand these two methods, I will go to stress strain diagram. So let us see this diagram very carefully. So on x-axis there is a strain, on y-axis there is a stress. So this is a stress strain diagram of mild steel. So you can observe one thing, from point O to point A there is a linear behavior. So what is this linear behavior? When stress increases, strain also increases. So they are behaving linearly. Both are increasing simultaneously. After that, you can see at till point B there is some change in linear behavior. After that, there is some yielding, and after that again the stress and strain will increase. They will reach to maximum point, that is ultimate strength at point D. After that, load carrying capacity will decrease, and finally fracture is going to occur. Now there is one thing, very important thing you can observe. After yielding, yielding means change in dimension or else bending or some structural action. So after yielding also material will carry some amount of load, because you can see stress means load divided by area. Let us think that area will remain same. So you can see I am increasing load over here, and simultaneously strain is also increasing. So load increase, I am just saying the stress as a load. So as load increases, strain increases, because I am keeping area as constant. You know that stress is equal to load divided by area. So area I am keeping constant. So if I increase load, obviously stress will increase proportionally. So modulus of resilience, it is called as modulus. This portion is called as modulus of resistance, or else we can call it as a linear portion. So in working stress method, only till point A the strength of material is utilized. So that's what we have discussed. You can see over here linear elastic behavior of a material or classical elastic behavior of a material. That's why it is called as linear elastic theory or classical elastic theory. Only the elastic part of a material is utilized. So what is this elastic part? So this linear part is called as elastic part, because when I remove the stress completely, strain will be the material will regain its original shape and size, means strain will become zero. So this is elastic behavior of a material. So till here only we are utilizing the strength of a material. So in working stress method, maximum strength of a material we are going to consider as a means till here. But what we have observed is after certain deformation, or after certain yielding, you can see this curve. After certain yielding, the material again starts carrying a load. So what that means, that means in working stress method we are not using the full strength of a material. We are using strength of a material up to linear behavior. Okay, so that is the drawback of that working stress method. So you may ask me what is wrong in that. I will tell you, when we won't be able to use full strength of a material, we are utilizing it under load. So we are utilizing it as an underload. For example, I can carry 50 kilonewton of load, but the designer is designing me to carry only 10 kilonewton load. Other strength which can be carried, the load is getting wasted. So that will not lead to economical design. So this is the problem with working stress method. So again, another method is ultimate load method. So ultimate load method is using the strength up to maximum, but there is uh, some problem in that. So you can see ultimate load method is using the load up to ultimate, means maximum strength of a material is utilized in that. So what is wrong with it? You can see there is some amount of deformation. So I will give you the example. Let us think that you are sitting in the classroom. There are beams which are running in the classroom. Let us think that there are beams which are running in the classroom. So if beam is beam is bent in such a way that by applying certain load, beam is bent in such a way that it is not looking safe or it is not looking aesthetic, means beam has been bent and you are sitting below that, are you able to feel comfortable below it? It may fall at any point of time. So there is some point in utilizing ultimate strength, because there is some amount of structural deformation or there is some amount of bending, I can see. So to prevent such a causes, so this is a problem with ultimate load method. So to prevent both this, there is certain care which we need to take, and that care is taken in limit state method of design. So this limit state method of designing take cares of serviceability. So what is meant by serviceability? That's what I have said. I have given the example of beam. So beam is bending enormously and you are sitting below that. It is not getting the full strength of material is utilized, but it is not looking aesthetic and you won't be able to feel safe below that. So that is called as serviceability. So with utilizing maximum strength or ultimate strength of a material, we have to take care of serviceability also. So what is the serviceability? You can see another example for this serviceability. Let us think that this is a beam, these two are the column supports. So if I apply certain amount of load, so whatever the plaster we are going to do below the bottom of the footing, at the bottom of the footing, when we apply maximum amount of load, means when we utilize full strength of a material, it is going to bend, and due to which plaster below may fall. So that is called as serviceability. So it has to provide the serviceability properly. So we need to take care of these things with utilizing ultimate strength of a material. So that is done in limit state method. So in limit state method, there are two acceptable limits, that is safety and serviceability requirements of a structure before failure occurs. The design of structure by this method will thus ensure they will not reach the limit state, means ultimate strength, it will not reach the ultimate strength by limiting this safety and serviceability factor. The design of structure by this method will thus ensure it will not reach the limit state and will not become unfit for use. Unfit for use means if beam bends, bending of beam is very high, or if we apply load up to ultimate level, beam is going to bend and plaster below that is going to fall. So it is not going to, it is in this method the material will not reach till that limit. So there are, to prevent the material from reaching that limit, can be done by using two very important limits, that is limit state of collapse and limit state of serviceability. These two limits are very important. Now the picture is very clear in your syllabus. In these two limits there is only one limit which is mentioned, that is limit state of collapse. Limit state of collapse is mentioned in your syllabus, and the limit state of collapse is the thing which we are going to study. So what is this limit state of collapse? Limit state of collapse of a structure or any part would be uh, collapse of a structure by buckling or bending due to elastic bending, shear, torsion and axial loads. So whenever we apply certain amount of load, there will be shear which is called, there will be bending moment which is called, there will be torsion which is caused, and because of this, if structure fails, it is called as limit state of collapse. So to prevent this, we need to take care of this limit. So limit state of serviceability I have already explained. So limit state of serviceability deals with caulking of structure under service loads, durability under working environment, and anticipated exposure condition during service. So whatever the exposure condition which is occurring during the service period of any structure is called as limit state of serviceability. Now our focus will be on limit state of collapse. Specifically in limit state of collapse, we are going to study about the torsion. Specifically in your syllabus, in limit state of collapse, they have mentioned about the torsion. Actually, in design of concrete structure 1, you have already studied about shear and bending. While designing a beam, you have designed it for bending moment and the stirrups are designed for shear. So specifically, uh, limit state of in limit state of collapse, we are going to deal with the torsion. So torsion is nothing but a twist. So I will tell you, we'll generally understand about the torsion. So let us think that this is a frame. So you can see the cursor, this is in x-axis and this is in y-axis. You can observe one thing, there is some beam which is joining this node, which is joining this point by z-axis also. So what this beam is going to cause, whatever the load which is applied on this beam is going to put some additional movement over here, some additional movement. So this is generally understood by this. You can see we have applied some amount of load. Let us think that some beam is going to get joined by some other axis, that is z axis. Let us think that some beam is getting joined in z axis. So as I have shown, so let us think that this is a beam shown over there and this is a beam which is getting joined by z axis. So which is going to create the additional movement. So what this additional movement is going to do, this additional movement is will try to twist the beam, is going to twist the beam. So we need to take care of this additional movement. So to take care of this additional movement, we have to take care of a torsion. So what this additional movement or movement is going to do, so this additional movement is going to induce a torsional movement along with bending moment and shear force. Obviously, as we have applied the load, you can see as we have applied the load, there will be movement and there will be shear which is going to cause in the beam. But when this additional movement is going to induced by some different element in a RC structure, the torsion is also going to get induced. So while designing a structure, you need to take care of torsion also. So in torsion there are two types. So primary or equilibrium torsion and secondary or compatibility torsion. So we will call it as a primary torsion and secondary torsion. So primary torsion is required for basic static equilibrium of most of a statically determinate structure. Accordingly, some torsional movement must be considered in the design. This torsional moment must be considered in the design. So to maintain the static equilibrium, this primary torsion is very essential. So what is the static equilibrium? That is number of unknowns should be equal to number of equilibrium equations. So to maintain that, this primary torsion is very important, and this torsion is must be considered while designing. So secondary torsion is required to satisfy the compatibility condition between the members. So no specific design torsion is necessary. So while designing a structure, secondary torsion is not necessarily to be considered. So this secondary torsion is to be satisfied, is required to satisfy the compatibility condition. Remember, secondary torsion is required to satisfy compatibility condition. Primary torsion is required to satisfy basic static equilibrium conditions. So primary torsion is required for maintaining static equilibrium condition, and secondary torsion is required to satisfy the compatibility condition. So how to consider this primary torsion while designing a structure is very important now. So remember, whenever you sit for this class, you have to follow some instructions. So remember, whenever you are watching this video lecture, now onwards after this lecture, you have to take IS 456 code with you. Okay, so we are going to discuss the clauses. So how to consider this torsional moment in a design is given in a IS code. So IS code is a code which is Bible for designing a concrete structure. So we are going to discuss which are the clauses which are related in considering the torsion while designing a RC structure. We are going to discuss. So you can see clause number 41 of IS 456. So we are going to discuss all these things, what that clause says, according to that how we are going to design, how we are going to calculate the torsion, we are going to see further. Okay, so in this lecture is completed here. In further future lectures, we are going to study with the clauses which says about consideration of this torsion while designing. Okay, so make sure that you will be sitting for this class with IS 456. So thank you.